There's rumor of a Dirty Dancing sequel. When they offer me $10 million for the sequel, which I wish I'd taken. Is this true? I don't know. Before the world lost, Patrick Swayze, the beloved star, peeled back the glittering facade of Dirty Dancing to reveal a truth few were prepared for. Beneath the swoon-worthy romance and legendary choreography lurked bitter clashes, personal demons, and a pressure cooker environment that pushed him to the brink. She taught you to dance. Yeah, she taught me what the meaning of discipline. You can't expect things to be handed to you on a silver platter, that you gotta work for it. Injuries were hidden, tempers flared, and not everyone made it through unscathed. For years, the set was mythologized as a dreamy escape. But Swayze's final words exposed a far darker reality. It's time to hear his truth. Let's pull back the curtain. The untamed journey of Patrick Swayze. Some lives don't begin, they erupt. Patrick Swayze's life wasn't crafted gently with time and tools. It exploded into rhythm, light, and fierce expectations. Long before the movie posters, before the iconic sway of hips in a lakeside lodge, there was Houston, Texas. August 18th, 1952. A boy was born to a woman who ruled a dance studio like a kingdom of motion. Patsy Swayze didn't merely teach dance, she sculpted warriors from music and muscle. Patrick wasn't spared. As her son, he wasn't handed a gentle path. He was hurled into it. From the moment he could stand, he was training. In ballet, jazz, even figure skating. While other kids played baseball, Patrick pirouetted. While other boys learned to shoot hoops, he learned to leap. But don't confuse him with fragility. He had fire, and fists, and fury. At school, he played football with the same intensity he brought to the stage, dreaming of college scholarships and touchdowns. That dream collapsed the day his knee snapped under the weight of a tackle that silenced everything. For most, it would have been a full stop. For Patrick, it was a redirection. He never said it out loud. But deep inside, he knew he wasn't meant to chase normal. His world tilted towards something else, something less ordinary, something harder. While his peers wrestled with algebra and college choices, Patrick was walking into martial arts studios, throwing kicks in one breath and practicing ballet plies in the next. It was rage, confusion, ambition, all colliding. He called it his self-deprecating anger. Others called it focus. But even he didn't fully know what it was yet. By 1972, with his knee pieced back together and his future uncertain, he boarded a bus headed far from Houston's hot sidewalks, destination New York City. There, in the cold silence of rehearsal halls, the studios of Joffrey and Harkness Ballet stripped him to nothing and rebuilt him with pain, sweat, and brilliance. The instructors didn't care about his last name. They didn't care about his broken dreams. They cared only about the fire in his feet, and he gave them that. There was one moment whispered about in artist circles that could have changed everything. Choreographer Elliot Feld envisioned a dance partnership between Swayze and the legendary Mikhail Baryshnikov. Patrick was meant to ascend with the stars until that knee again betrayed him. Reconstruction surgery shattered that dream. But not the man. What would have broken others simply made Patrick shift paths again, this time towards something more dangerous. The stage, then the screen. His first gigs were quiet, even cheesy. He danced for Disney. He appeared in Grease on Broadway, wearing the leather of Danny Zuko, in yet another borrowed spotlight. But he owned it always. Audiences leaned forward. Something about him was different. Not polished, but raw, unapologetically human. Hollywood noticed. In 1979, he glided into the flickering lights of cinema with Skate Town, USA, a disco-drenched roller skating film few would remember. But his presence, that wasn't so easy to forget. And just when it seemed he might vanish into the smoky background of Hollywood's endless casting carousel, the 1980s came roaring in, and with it a string of roles that tested not just his talent, but his soul. A Marine trainer in Uncommon Valor, a gang leader in The Renegades, A dying soldier in a single devastating MASH episode. None of them led to stardom. Not yet. But they built something else. Tension. Suspense. Patrick Swayze was circling greatness, but not quite touching it. Not yet. Because greatness doesn't knock. It crashes. And in just a few years, it would arrive with one final lift, one sultry song, and a woman no one puts in a corner. But what if Patrick Swayze's path to greatness all came down to one lift, one movie, and one defining moment? Stay tuned. A corner of his own. But when greatness finally came for Patrick Swayze, it didn't knock politely. It crashed through the door in a blur of hips, heartbreak, and heat. It arrived in the form of a film no studio believed in. Dirty Dancing was meant to be a quick flick of filler for the shelves, not a legend. The budget was small, the expectations even smaller. Yet something in that script, in that world of forbidden dances and summer secrets, lit a fuse inside Patrick that no one could extinguish. He became Johnny Castle, brooding magnetic and smoldering with intensity. But he didn't just play Johnny. He was Johnny, the quiet strength, the raw sensuality, the ache of someone trying to matter in a world that keeps reminding him he doesn't. He carried the role with the weight of his own past, the ballet discipline, the bruises of rejection, the knee that never fully forgave him. Every lift, every glance, every step with Jennifer Grey was more than choreography. It was memory. And when the now iconic line, "Nobody puts baby in a corner," escaped his lips, it wasn't just a moment in the script. It was a declaration for Johnny, for Patrick, for every artist who'd ever been overlooked. Audiences didn't just watch the film, they devoured it. Theaters buzzed. Videos flew off shelves. And a song Swayze had co-written years earlier, "She's Like the Wind," suddenly became a top 10 hit. Radio stations played it on loop. Fans memorized the lyrics. The boy from Houston who once dreamt of scholarships and skates now ruled the airwaves and screens. But Patrick never stopped moving. He didn't ride the wave, he chased the next one. In 1990, he took a sharp turn away from dance and into the ethereal realm of love and loss. Ghost wasn't just a film. It was an experience. It tapped into something ancient and aching. The fear of death, the grip of love, the hope that something survives. As Sam Wheat, Patrick was tender, tragic, and unforgettable. Opposite Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg, he played a man already dead, desperate to protect the woman he loved. The famous pottery scene became etched in pop culture forever. And for the second time, he was nominated for a Golden Globe. But more than awards, Ghost gave him something different. Validation. He wasn't a one-film wonder. He wasn't just a dancer. He could make people believe in the unseen. 1 year later, he dove into Point Break, unleashing his thrill-seeking alter ego as Bodhi, the Zen surfer criminal. Patrick pulled off skydives, surf scenes, and wild-eyed speeches that blended philosophy with adrenaline. He didn't act fearless. He was fearless. Many of the stunts were his own. That same year, People magazine named him the sexiest man alive, sealing his status as a Hollywood legend. But Patrick never wore fame comfortably. He wasn't built for red carpets and rehearsed interviews. He was built for work, for challenge, for depth. So naturally, he zigged when everyone expected him to zag. In 1995, he shocked fans and critics by playing a drag queen in To Wong Fu. Thanks for everything. Julie Newmar. The makeup, the dresses, the heels, none of it dimmed his light. If anything, it made it shine brighter. He approached the role of Vida Boheme with such dignity, humor, and heart, it shattered stereotypes. He didn't mock, he honored, and audiences noticed. Then came pain. In 1997, while filming Letters from a Killer, tragedy struck. A horseback accident left both of his legs broken and 4 shoulder tendons torn. Filming halted. Recovery was brutal, and whispers grew. Is he done? But Patrick didn't retreat. He returned. He quietly stepped into smaller films, heartfelt roles, and even produced a few projects with his wife, Lisa Niemi, his lifelong partner, his anchor through every storm. In 2001, he played a twisted motivational speaker in Donnie Darko. It was strange, dark, unlike anything he'd done before, but it was real, and it proved again. He didn't need a leading man spotlight to leave an impression. Even as he aged, Patrick Swayze kept pushing boundaries, performing in West End musicals, voicing animated films, and in 2009, battling pancreatic cancer while starring in The Beast. Doctors warned him that pain was constant, but he delivered every line with fire. Critics called it his best work. Maybe they were right, because this time the fight wasn't just on screen, it was inside him. Still, he rose, because not even fate could put Patrick Swayze in a corner. Dirty truths beneath the dance floor. Just when it seemed the rhythm of Patrick Swayze's life had settled into a breathtaking dance of fame, strength, and success. An old story stirred beneath the surface, one stitched not with choreography, but with tension, regret, and raw vulnerability. Now let's take a step back in time into the details of the Dirty Dance. Audiences fell hard. The year was 1987. Dirty Dancing hit theaters like a pulse racing through the veins of cinema. Sizzling chemistry, hypnotic choreography, and a fairy tale ending that seemed too perfect to be untrue. Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey were no longer actors. They were icons. But the magic on screen had a different heartbeat behind the scenes, one that didn't move in harmony. Before Johnny and Baby locked eyes across a dance floor, there had been another set, another film, and an uneasy history. In Red Dawn, a Cold War drama released years earlier, Jennifer and Patrick had first collided not in passion, but in discomfort. Patrick, intense and laser-focused, carried himself with the same iron discipline he brought to his martial arts training and dance background. Jennifer, all heart and instinct, worked from emotion and vulnerability. Their energies clashed. No great argument, no public feud, just a friction that never quite cooled. So when Jennifer learned he'd been cast opposite her in Dirty Dancing, her heart sank. The memory of that tension came roaring back. It wasn't just that they didn't get along. It was that he unnerved her. Producers, however, were unwavering. They needed someone who could move like fire and carry the weight of romance on his shoulders. Patrick was the only one who fit. Still, before the first camera rolled, something unexpected happened. Moments before their screen test, Patrick took Jennifer aside, not as Johnny Castle, but as himself. Gone was the stern exterior. In its place, honesty raw and shaking. I love you, and I'm so sorry. And I know you don't want me to do the movie, the actress recalled. The walls came down. For the first time, Jennifer saw the man behind the posture. And when they stepped in front of the camera, something shifted. Not just between them, but in the room. The tension turned electric. What had once threatened to divide them now fused into a chemistry producers instantly recognized as rare. Still, the set was far from a dream. Filming in North Carolina during the relentless summer heat turned even the most basic days into endurance tests. Costumes clung to bodies like wet cloth, tempers frayed, and Patrick, already nursing a damaged knee, pushed through agonizing choreography, hiding pain behind every precise step. He refused to let the injury slow him down. Jennifer felt the pressure differently. As the film's emotional core, she bore the weight of expectation. But off camera, she never fully relaxed. Patrick's energy shifted constantly. Compassion one moment, ice the next. The old tension hadn't disappeared. It had simply found new ways to express itself. Even in the film's most famous scenes, the final dance, the epic lift, there was conflict beneath the grace. He demanded perfection. She feared failure. Together, they walked the razor's edge between performance and implosion. But somehow, just before the edge gave way, they delivered brilliance. While Dirty Dancing turned Patrick into a household name, few realized how rapidly his world was changing. Away from the limelight, he was quietly crafting a different empire. He loved engines that roared and wheels that gleamed. Classic American muscle cars and Harley-Davidsons lined his private garages. But it wasn't just about image. Patrick was methodical even in success. He acquired land acres of it in California and turned it into a sanctuary complete with stables and wide skies. Flying became his newest escape, and he bought his own aircraft, earning the license to fly solo. Behind the fame, he and his wife Lisa built a life grounded in shared dreams and smart investments. He wasn't merely performing on screen, he was preparing for the life beyond it. Every choice, every watch on his wrist, every property deed, every flight log spoke of a man aware that fame was fleeting. But legacy was a matter of design. He even took the unusual step of ensuring his health and career years before others thought to. It wasn't paranoia, it was foresight. Patrick had always known life was fragile. But what if Patrick's escapes were really calculations, and Dirty Dancing hid more tension than romance? Stay glued to your screen, the unscripted fire behind Dirty Dancing. But just as the fire of on-screen magic began to blaze, the fragile piece behind the curtain started to flicker out. While Dirty Dancing painted a picture of chemistry and passion, the set told another story, a quiet battleground of clashing methods, raw nerves, and growing resentment. The emotional connection reignited during the screen test between Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze had been genuine, yes, but it was not strong enough to erase the ghosts of old conflicts or smooth over the sharp edges of their opposing personalities. Patrick Swayze, a classically trained ballet dancer with years of professional performance experience, approached the project with disciplined focus. Every move, every breath, every step was calculated. Dance was his craft, and precision was his language. Jennifer, in contrast, came from an instinctive place. She hadn't trained in formal choreography. Her strength was emotional spontaneity, and her acting lived in the unpredictable. That difference, once a source of creative contrast, quickly became a wedge. As filming got underway in the summer of 1986 at Lake Lure, North Carolina, tensions rose with the heat. Patrick, ever the perfectionist, grew increasingly frustrated with Jennifer's struggles to match the timing and footwork. While he was known for his professionalism, his patience thinned with each misstep. Jennifer, already battling self-doubt, found herself breaking into nervous laughter during difficult scenes. Retakes were constant, sometimes dozens in a day. What should have been fluid became a grind. Crew members remember moments where the pair refused to speak between takes. They'd glare in silence until the director called action, at which point the two would transform, falling seamlessly into Johnny and Baby. But the intensity wasn't all acting. The emotions were real, simmering just beneath their lines and steps. It wasn't merely performance. It was a fragile balancing act between love and loathing. Their rehearsals were tense. Patrick focused on perfecting the choreography, often corrected Jennifer's movements. To him, it was teamwork. To her, it felt controlling. She feared being overshadowed, wanting to contribute, not just follow. With production moving fast, emotions were pushed aside. What emerged wasn't harmony, but a quiet clash, his precision versus her emotion. Patrick's intensity often felt overpowering, and Jennifer, rather than challenge it, withdrew. Ironically, that very tension fueled their on-screen chemistry. When Baby appeared unsure around Johnny, it was often genuine. And still, amidst the friction, something astonishing happened. There was one scene that embodied everything, the iconic lift in the final dance. By now, the tension between Patrick and Jennifer had reached its peak. The choreography was demanding, the emotional stakes were high. Jennifer's trust in Patrick had been tested again and again. Her body was tired, her spirit frayed. And yet for that moment, just that one, they broke through. It wasn't clean. It wasn't perfect in rehearsal. But when the camera rolled, something aligned. Patrick's strength steadied her fear. Jennifer's vulnerability softened his edge. She ran, jumped, and he caught her. Not just in the air, but in a fleeting, miraculous second of trust. It became the defining moment of Dirty Dancing, a symbol of both surrender and support. What no one saw was the chaos it took to get there. The emotional minefield beneath the music, the unspoken battles behind the smiles. It's no wonder the film resonated so deeply, because the truth is, love like dance isn't about perfect steps. It's about falling and hoping someone's there to defeat, to catch you. The tension beneath the lift. But just as the film's cinematic magic reached its peak, what unfolded behind the scenes was anything but graceful. The fragile truce between Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze had already begun to unravel the moment Dirty Dancing shifted from casting rooms to the camera floor. The tender apology that once seemed to bridge their differences now felt like a distant echo. What remained was a storm of clashing methods, bruised egos, and a race against time. The camera may have captured heat and intimacy, but off-screen the relationship between the leads ran cold. Patrick Swayze was precise to the bone, a disciplined ballet dancer whose professional career had taught him that every movement was a promise, not a suggestion. Jennifer, on the other hand, leaned on instinct. Her talent came from an emotional core, not from 8 counts and clean footwork. She wanted to feel her way through the role. He wanted structure. Their artistry pulled in opposite directions, and it showed. Filming days stretched on as take after take crumbled under the weight of awkward interactions. Patrick's intensity didn't mesh well with Jennifer's fragile vulnerability. Scenes that should have wrapped in a few hours extended into the night. She'd miss steps, break into nervous laughter, or flinch at his touch. To her, it was nerves. To him, it was inefficiency. Crew members often whispered that they would barely speak before scenes and barely look at each other once the director called cut. Yet somehow, every ounce of their off-screen frustration seemed to explode into on-screen electricity. When Johnny scolded Baby, the sharpness wasn't scripted. When Baby hesitated in his arms, it wasn't a performance. It was real. The tension audiences loved was born of discomfort, not desire. The Hungry Eyes montage was one of the toughest scenes to film, with Jennifer anxious and giggly during a moment that demanded intimacy and control. Patrick, frustrated by her repeated laughter, saw it as sabotage, while she couldn't help it. But director Emile Ardolino kept the cameras rolling, and the raw, unscripted moment became one of the film's most genuine. Still, the tension that had been building for weeks finally met its most demanding test during the film's climactic lift scene. The lift, immortalized in posters parodied endlessly and adored by fans, was far more than a flourish of choreography. It was a test of trust. Jennifer had never once rehearsed the move. Her fear of being dropped ran deep, and no amount of coaching could coax her into practicing it ahead of time. Swayze, wired for repetition and perfection, couldn't understand her hesitation. He trained for exactness. She leaned on feeling. The entire crew knew they only had one shot. The stakes were high, the cameras rolled, Jennifer ran. Patrick caught her. And in that breathtaking moment of vulnerability and strength, the lift happened. Just once, just perfectly, without rehearsal, and under the weight of all the emotional baggage they carried. It was a moment carved out of tension, held together by adrenaline, and caught forever on film. But not everything was resolved in that final lift. What Jennifer never revealed, at least not at the time, was the emotional toll behind the mask. Something happened during filming, something she carried quietly for years. It wasn't about a missed cue or a difficult partner. It was about being a young woman in a high-pressure world, trying to find her voice in a space where control wasn't always shared. Behind the scenes of Dirty Dancing was not just a romantic story being told. It was a battle between instinct and discipline, spontaneity and structure, fear and trust. And somehow, out of all the cracks and conflicts, they created something timeless. But what if that iconic final lift masked deeper battles, silent struggles Jennifer and Patrick never truly left behind? Stay glued to your screen. What Patrick Swayze revealed about the truth behind Dirty Dancing. And just as the applause from Dirty Dancing echoed across theaters worldwide, Patrick Swayze quietly began telling his side of the story. A truth buried beneath the film's polished perfection and glittering legacy. To the world, Patrick was a storm wrapped in grace, commanding charismatic and effortlessly smooth. But behind the curtain, he was something more complex. What unfolded on set was not simply movie making. It was a battle of trust, a clash of styles, and a test of patience that shaped him in ways few ever knew. Patrick, molded by years of rigorous ballet and stage performance, arrived on the Dirty Dancing set with high expectations and a professional fire honed since childhood. His mother, Patsy Swayze, was a fierce choreographer who had trained him to respect the discipline of dance like sacred scripture. His every movement came from muscle memory and emotional precision. But Dirty Dancing wasn't a traditional dance film. It was about chemistry, heat, and chaos was exactly what he got. From the very beginning, Patrick knew the role of Johnny Castle would challenge everything he had been taught. Johnny wasn't refined. He wasn't polished. He was real, raw, grounded. Patrick had to strip back the elegance he was used to and let instinct take the lead. That wasn't easy for a perfectionist. The struggle to loosen his control became even more complicated by the unpredictable energy between him and co-star Jennifer Grey. Though their screen chemistry sizzled, Swayze didn't pretend things were perfect behind the scenes. Years after the film's release, he admitted in interviews that he often grew frustrated with Jennifer's emotional process. She laughed when she got nervous sometimes, uncontrollably. And Patrick, laser-focused on getting the scene right, didn't always understand that vulnerability. He later confessed that the infamous scene where Johnny runs his hand down Baby's arm, causing her to break into giggles, wasn't scripted at all. He was annoyed. She couldn't stop laughing. But somehow the moment worked. The director left it in. It became iconic. Then came the lift, the moment that made movie history. What fans never knew is that Jennifer refused to rehearse it. She was terrified, and no amount of coaxing from Patrick could change that. For a dancer trained to believe in repetition and muscle control, her fear felt like a personal obstacle. But on the day of the shoot, there was no time left. The camera rolled, she ran, he caught her, and the result, a flawless one-take miracle. But behind that leap was a mountain of tension and a silent war between control and surrender. Patrick often said later that dance, like acting, was a matter of trust. And in that final lift, Jennifer had finally trusted him. That single moment, raw, unrehearsed, heart-pounding, captured everything the film stood for. Vulnerability. Risk, magic. Off-set, Swayze battled his own inner dialogue. He wanted every move to matter, every beat to land. He didn't just want to look good. He wanted to feel something and make the audience feel it too. He spoke fondly of director Kenny Ortega, who taught him to relax into Johnny Castle's character, to let go of performance and just be. That shift changed how he approached every role after. Suddenly, it wasn't about landing the perfect turn. It was about showing the cracks in the armor. In his memoir and later interviews, Patrick never painted himself as a hero of the Dirty Dancing story. He admitted his flaws, his impatience, his struggle with letting go. But he also revealed that beneath the friction there was a deep respect for Jennifer. She brought spontaneity. He brought structure. Together they built something messy, beautiful, and enduring. And that's what Dirty Dancing really was. Not just a film about love, but a real-life dance between two people who didn't always step in time, but somehow created a rhythm no one could ever forget. But what if Patrick's greatest love story wasn't on screen, but began in a dance studio long before fame found him? Stay glued. Patrick Swayze's real love story and the legacy he left behind. But just beyond the spotlight of Dirty Dancing, where hearts were lifted and lines blurred between fiction and feeling, the truest love story in Patrick Swayze's life was unfolding far away from the cameras. Long before he was America's leading man, Patrick had already found his leading lady. Her name was Lisa Niemi, a fellow dancer quiet in the limelight, but fierce in devotion. They first crossed paths in Houston in 1970. He was 18, already graceful in his stride, already chasing dreams. She was just 14, a student in his mother's ballet school. What began in silence slowly blossomed into a bond that would outlast fame, grief, and even time itself. By 1975, they were married not just as husband and wife, but as creative soulmates. Lisa wasn't just standing behind Patrick, she stood beside him. They danced together, filmed together, built businesses, bought horses, flew planes, and wrote their own scripts, both on and off screen. In Hollywood, their love was an anomaly. No scandals, no distractions, just two people choosing each other every day. While the world whispered about the electric connection between Patrick and Jennifer Grey, especially during the frenzy of Dirty Dancing's release in 1987, Lisa remained his center. He never let the rumors sway him. "She's my home," he once said. It was the kind of love that didn't need headlines. It just endured. But even fairy tales have shadows. In the 1990s, Patrick's world was rocked by personal loss. In 1994, his father Jesse passed away. 2 years later, his sister Vicky died by self-harm. The double blow sent him spiraling, and for a while, alcohol became his escape. The man known for strength and discipline unraveled, but Lisa, always steady, pulled him back from the edge. The only thing missing from their story was a child. Patrick had quietly longed to be a father. There were whispers of a miscarriage early in their marriage, a grief neither of them confirmed. But every time the question came up in interviews, Patrick would pause, his voice faltering. It was clear some wounds are too deep for words. Then came the diagnosis. In 2008, he was told he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The odds were brutal, but Patrick faced it like he did everything head-on. Even as the disease spread, he kept working, filming the TV series The Beast while undergoing treatment. Lisa was at every doctor's visit, every sleepless night. Every step she became his nurse, his comfort, his quiet warrior. Patrick passed away on September 14, 2009, in Los Angeles. He was 57, but in the months before his death, he found peace in small things. Sitting by the window of their New Mexico ranch, watching the wind pass through the trees, sometimes writing poetry, always with Lisa close by. His final words to a friend were simple. "Lisa was my miracle." She never remarried. And though the world remembers Johnny, and baby Lisa remembers the man who danced with her through decades, through pain and celebration, through silence and storm. In the end, Patrick Swayze didn't just leave behind films or fame. He left behind a love so genuine, it made even his most iconic performances seem like echoes of the real thing. But what do you think truly defined Patrick Swayze? His on-screen romance, or the quiet, unwavering love he shared off-screen with Lisa? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe